In this video, I'm going to take you through the steps that a new fund owner would go through when they're setting up a fund for the very first time in Dealpipeline. Now, normally you'll have received an email inviting you to set up an account or a fund in Dealpipeline. Typically, in the case of a fund, this will usually come to you because someone's tried to refer you a deal or investment opportunity, and you'd like to evaluate it. And so you'll get onto Dealpipeline AI so you can evaluate the deal. When you click on the link in the email, it'll bring you to a page like this. And in order to set up a fund in Dealpipeline, you need to set up each of these features. The first thing is your own personal account for you as a user. You click on setting up the account profile, and what will come up is a user account profile. In this case, it's going to be the fund owner, which is you, which means you'll have all these potential roles that you can perform. Obviously, you be the owner, and you can be an administrator and add accounts and things, and then you can be a partner who makes investment decisions and makes decisions to move between stages. You can be an investor who scores deals and evaluates deals. You can be a rep, who's the person who inputs deals into your system. So these company founders or bankers or people who are representing deals. And of course, you can always find out the billing information. Now, the information here, first thing is your full name. Um, the roles you can have, which will all be pre-filled for you, and the email address where this was sent. So this will all be pre-filled for you. You fill out your phone number, URL for yourself or your company, your LinkedIn URL, and any comments about you. In this case, you find this fees, but any sort of comment about you that you might think. Now, one of the roles you'll have as the owner is, of course, as an investor, which means you'll also have a little tab here for investor attributes. These are the sort of things that you like to invest in. So tell us a little about you, because when people are going to recommend deals to you personally, they would look for these sort of characteristics. So it's something like, what are your areas of expertise? Fill those in here. What sort of spaces do you like to invest in? The typical investment spaces that you would invest in, and the sort of industries where you have, you make investments or have expertise is all here. So that's a quick summary of what you would need to fill out for the first thing, which was your personal information, sorry, on and about yourself. Now, once you've done that, the next thing you'll be asked to provide information on is, in fact, the fund information. This is particularly important because this is the fund information profile or the fund profile. Now, in here, you'll see a series of values that you need to fill out about the fund. Obviously, the fund name, the full fund name, the primary contact, which is usually going to be you, and the fund's address, the fund's URL, emails. These should be all obvious. The type of fund that you are, you're a venture fund or a real estate fund, or you're multiple, you do multiple things. You're a growth equity fund or growth investment fund, whatever they are. You're a real estate fund, all this sort of thing in there. You can put information about how big a fund you are. And then you can fill out the about, which is just all about the fund, a bit about your history, the sort of people you you work on, where you came from, is the first, second, or third fund that you've done. Everything you would normally put in the about section of your web page goes, so you can build in here. Your investment focus areas, what areas you typically focus, do you venture capital deals, or do you do real estate deals, or do you invest in other funds, fund of fund type deals, or do you tend to do buyouts, which is obviously extremely common. Just the sort of what your investment focus is. Typical investment range, sort of size of investments you typically like to do. The next thing would be your investment thesis. These are the sort of things we invest in. We invest in vertically integrated companies, or we invest in companies that have a model that can be franchised, or whatever your investment thesis is. And you can see here's an example of one for your fund. You put in here the sort of things you look for in deals. You put in here the investment spaces that you'll invest in the next section, your areas of expertise, the fund. So that's all of the people, the associates, the partners, the general partners, all the people who make or are involved at some point in investment decisions at your fund. You kind of collect that together and say, these are our areas of expertise and these are our industries of expertise. These are the sort of value adds that we bring to investments that we make. These are the sort of stages of development we look for in the investments we make, where, wherever they're early stage or Series A or whatever they are. investment locations we like to invest in. I mean, geographical locations we tend to invest in. Our risk tolerance can be low, medium, high, or in this case, all of them. It doesn't really matter. And essentially our preferred hold time. You can put this information in and save that information, and then you put together a fund profile. Now, this is very important that you do this when you're setting up the fund, because when the AI component of Dealpipeline is evaluating a deal and it uses these fund criteria, the fund profile, to decide if this deal is a good fit for your fund. So take the time to put the information in here, because the AI will be using this when it makes its recommendation of whether you should go to the next stage with this deal or look at it. It's a very important input source for the AI. And it's also one of the ways that you're going to tailor the AI specifically to you and specifically to your fund, because the same deal will get a different score and a different recommendation depending on what the fund is and who the fund is, because of information like this. Your fund is going to be different to someone else's fund, so it will make a fund specific recommendation when it talks about a deal. The next area that you will be asked to fill out is for the AI investors. Okay, now the AI investors, these are the AI models that you want to use to evaluate deals. Okay, so to do this, you'll actually have to have an API key, and there's you can go to, in our case, OpenAI. You have to create an account, your own account, a pay for account. They're not expensive. I think the cheapest one, the starting one's about, has a maximum spend of $10 a month. So we're not talking about a lot of money or anything. The average deal, depending, takes, to evaluate the whole deal. So one of our whole deals takes 2-3 cents, maybe sometimes up to 6 cents, depending on how much data and files and pitch decks and how big and complex they are. 5-6 cents to just go through and evaluate that. But as you go and ask more and more questions, obviously it takes more and more money. But we're talking cents here to do this. So for an investment fund, this should be nothing. But you will need your own set of keys, and you can go to OpenAI and get some API keys, and then you click in here. You can set up an investor. So here's the ones I've already set up. But if you were to have a look at what requires, you would simply add, and when you go to add it, you would get a table that looks a bit like this. The way you do it is you type, you would go and say, oh, what AI model you want to use. And you can see, you reduce it a bit here and you get all the AI models. You pick the model. So you pick and whichever model you want, say who the vendor is, in this case, OpenAI. Put a proper name in here that has to be unique. So because I picked OpenAI 4.1 Mini, I'd probably go back to OpenAI 4.1 Mini. There's where you have to put in your key. Your API key, save user, and then you'll have effectively created a user. And you can see in this case here, we have, out of the gate, we have 4 different models from OpenAI that we've created, which means that all 4 of these models can evaluate deals for us, when we start doing deal evaluation. So that's what the AI investors is. You have to add some AI investors if you want to start using the AI features. The next section is adding partners. So these are other people who work at your fund who can evaluate deals. Let's click here and you can just simply add users to the system. The next area is invite founders and company representatives, bankers, whoever's representing companies. And again, this will send out an email similar to the one you got to set up a fund. So they can go ahead and onboard onto your fund, and they can start inputting deals into your fund. And then the last section you'll be able to click on would take you to our referral section, where you can accept a deal that's been sent to you for evaluation. So if you do this, it'll take you to our referrals area at the moment. And then at the moment, I don't have a deal, but normally you would click on the deal and then you'll be able to click on import to import the deal. So there you go. That's the steps you would need to go through to set up a fund and how it will all work.